We know that we want children to experience all of cosmic education in its entirety without any separations of disciplines. We want them to really see and feel and explore the interrelatedness of all knowledge. And the way that we support that in the classroom is that they're not feeling any arbitrary divisions. However, the way that we can do that is through our, really dedicated and organized lesson planning and record keeping. We, as the adults, need to take all the structure and all the organization of the albums and within Cosmic Education and be sure that we're holding that really clearly for ourselves so that the children have the freedom to really explore without having to take that structure on. So we do some serious planning so that the children are free to explore. At the very heart and foundation of our planning for children has to be the individual child. When we think about what we want to do with children in a given week or month or day, we have to start with each child, each individual child. So that means we need to think, what has this child shown me recently? What characteristics or human tendencies do I see really engaged in this child right now? Where are their interests? What has gotten them excited recently? When we think about the child in that way, we can then think, oh, okay, I'm seeing this, so I'm going to give this presentation. We can really respond to what the child is showing us. At the beginning of the year, we're going to be making a lot of guesses about this because we don't know the children as well yet. And so at the beginning of the year, we'll be grouping children in a certain way, sort of arbitrarily, to start to see where their interests are. But once we're into the school year a few weeks, we should know the children and we should be able to start planning more individually for each child. So we aren't taking the curriculum and letting that drive our planning. We're observing and interacting with the child and having each individual child drive our own planning for that child. As we're planning for each child, generally each week is generally how I approached it. We need to think about what we've done with that child before, what we've observed about that child, what has that child told us in our individual meetings, and what, are we in line with state standards to a certain extent? The key thing here is that we are not allowing our curriculum to drive our planning, nor are we allowing the child's biological age to drive our planning. We're going to keep both of those things in mind as they relate to the standards and as they relate to where we need to be, but we aren't going to have that be the driver. The child's interest is what it causes us to respond in particular ways. We have to figure out ways to keep ourselves accountable in our planning so that we're sure we're getting all of Cosmic Education out to all the children. I tended to plan week by week, and I would plan a lesson in each subject area for each child every week. Now, I did not always get to this, or sometimes I gave 3 lessons in one area and 0 in another. But I found that to be a helpful way for me to manage my accountability. Oh, I haven't given a lesson in biology in a while for this child. I need to figure out what I could do there. Or, wow, this child has been really focused in art and we need to diversify. So that's where I had that method in place for my accountability, not for the children, right? So it's my job if they're not working in all areas to figure out a way to make that happen. So weekly planning is the heart of your lesson planning system, but I also recommend an annual plan. And we'll talk more about that just so we can be sure all of Cosmic Education is getting out for the children. You want to think about what materials you haven't seen out recently, what you're noticing in the prepared environment. And I do really encourage that you think about making sure that every child gets at least 1 lesson a day. I mean, that doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule, but it's something to really, think about as you're trying to get them engaged and working in the environment. Just a few words of caution as you're considering your lesson planning system. Don't become mechanical in it. Don't think, okay, this is what we did last week, I'll just do the next lesson in the series. Or don't become mechanical in the groupings of children. Oh, they've been together, so we'll just keep them together. You're not necessarily going to go, start to finish through one section of your album with a child. You may take a break, come back later. And you will find as you work with children that sometimes a group works well together for a while, but you want to be sure that you're keeping those lesson groups fluid. And certainly we're never going to group children simply because of their biological age. We're going to group them according to interest and ability. And we'll talk more about all of that.